Well, 25 million Americans have tested positive for coronavirus, and this pandemic has affected everyone here in the United States. Everyone has somehow been affected by the virus. We've been getting a lot of emails, a lot of calls about where our own Gino LaMont is, and so I am joined by him. He is at home. Gino, you want to tell our viewers where you've been?
Yeah, I tested positive for COVID-19 late last week. Symptoms, started feeling those late Wednesday of last week. So by Thursday, I hustled over and got a test done and got the results back fairly quickly to find out that I was in fact positive. Got the rest of the family tested. Everybody else is doing okay. So that's certainly good news. And I've been really fortunate in that the symptoms for me so far have been pretty mild, especially compared to some of the horror stories that you and I have been talking about now for nearly a year. So mild headaches, some body aches, a little chest congestion, fatigue, some trouble sleeping, stuff like that, but nothing anywhere near as horrible as it certainly could have been, or at least as horrible as we've heard other people's experience. And so for that, I'm very grateful.
And you did share with us during the 5 o'clock hour that you had taken some time off actually to move. This has been a big process for you and your family. My big question was, oh my goodness, he's sick and he's moving. How was that experience been? Did it knock you off your feet for a little bit?
Be honest with you, the stress of packing up and selling one house and then buying another house and moving it all over, I sort of put off those early symptoms on Wednesday as just the buildup of the stress, because Thursday was going to be moving day. But by that day, I was unwell for sure. And so that's why I got tested. The move went fine. Truth is, I was only going to have to do a little bit of it anyways. But so that part was okay. But what happened was, because, Dr. Loftus has been scaring the heck out of us since, February of last year. So I had been super careful as anybody I knew. My son's special needs. And so we're always terrified of him getting anything, let alone something like COVID-19. But my best friend from childhood, who's also been extremely careful because he has underlying conditions, had invited me over. Now, normally we sit outside, but it was chilly that day. We decided to move inside for the afternoon to watch football. And him and his wife are two of the most conscientious people I knew. So we thought, okay, this would be fine. Well, as it turns out, though, neither one of them ever showed symptoms. They had some tests done last week and showed they have the antibodies, which means they were the asymptomatic spreaders of it, and they weren't even aware of it. So I know that that's where, it happened, because I let my guard down that one time, and that's all it took. And sure enough, within, 5 days, I was feeling significant symptoms. Again, they didn't get real bad, and it still hasn't, and I think I'm on the back end of it. The doctors seem fairly comfortable that it's not going to get demonstrably worse for me. So, but it just goes to show you all the preaching that I did for 10, 11 months. I let my guard down one time with two people I knew were being as careful as we were, and it turns out that they were asymptomatic carriers of it.
That's interesting too, because I know that you have been getting emails because, you're also our manager here. You're my manager. You've been getting emails about, hey, why are you and Sarah still across the studio from each other? When are you ever going to share the desk again? We've been doing this for now, 10 months. You and I have been on the opposite ends of the room. And perhaps this is why, something like this, you let your guard down for a little bit. And just to be clear, I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. I haven't been in the same building as you in 2 weeks, so I haven't been exposed. But this is why. These are the moments why you can't let your guard down.
Well, yeah, and that's why we continue to do the separation, because there's three of us, and we're fortunate that we have a large studio, so we were able to separate me, you, and Mike, and keep everybody a good, healthy distance apart. But let's don't discount the fact that you like it better when you're sitting on the other side of the room.
Yes. Well, that too, I do like that desk better. It's a little bit more comfortable. And also, I always felt, you, like you said, you've been pretty conscientious too. I mean, you and I really don't have much of a social life outside work, so I knew that you were probably a little bit more careful than the average Joe. But another thing we want to touch on is that you know, there have been so many people in this country who have lost a loved one due to this virus, or who have contracted the virus, been in the hospital for an extended period of time, had symptoms, these long haulers for months on end. And you truly are one of the lucky ones. So how does this make you feel now that you have the virus, reflecting back on the things you've been talking about for months now? How does that make you feel?
Well, I'll tell you what, the first thing is the fear. Because when you first get that positive response sent to you from the testing place, there's fear. I mean, and I'm not young, so I certainly qualify as those that would be more likely to suffer severe consequences of this. So it's the fear and uncertainty initially that hits you. We happen to know some doctors from the work that we do, so I was able to call some up, and you know, they got some testing done early. We confirmed it. There's not much they can do except monitor you and just kind of hope that with massive doses of vitamin C and vitamin D and zinc that can help minimize it. And I'd been taking that for several months before I got sick. So clearly it's, you know, not a prophylactic of any kind, but maybe that is one of the reasons why I've been fortunate enough to have fairly minor complications so far. So I've been fortunate that way. I don't know, but I tell you what, I do now understand more than I did before was the fear. And the fear comes from uncertainty, right? Because nobody knows. It hits everybody differently. Even people I've talked to, you know, they had this symptom, but I didn't. And I had that symptom, but they didn't. So it's the uncertainty and the fear initially, especially, I think that stands out the most to me about this disease and how terrifying it can be for, you know, every American.
And you still have your taste and your smell and everything like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, because I was kind of thinking, you know, if there's one upside, I could lose my sense of taste and maybe drop a couple of lbs. But so far, I'm eating just fine.
Well, I'm not going to speak on that. All right. Well, yeah. So I do want to say, though, before we end, hopefully we can touch back with you in a couple of days and see how you're doing. I know a lot of the viewers miss you for sure.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate everybody's concern. Yeah, I'm going to be out probably till like the 5th of February for sure, just to make sure, you know, I have to have 3 negative tests in a row before I would go back into our studios and stuff. So yeah, we're gonna keep me out a while just to be on the cautious side. But thank everybody at work, and certainly everybody watching at home for your concern, but doing okay. And believe me when I tell you, I can't wait to get back to work.
Yeah, and for anyone who has suffered from coronavirus, our hearts and our prayers go out to you, because you're the stories that we hate to tell every day, but that are very important as well, is that the people who have been severely impacted by this virus, we don't want to downplay it by any means. All right, thank you so much, Gino. We'll be right back.
Thanks, Sarah.